Give me one. Hi, everyone, and welcome.
Hello, everybody. I think Doreet is having some audio challenges and she'll be back on shortly. Um, Today's topic, we're going to talk about how to nourish yourself, how to support your own healing. And I have all these lovely, talented, and vibrant people to support me on this and add to our enhancement of what we're going to learn today. So, Pete, can you tell us what you recommend to work on your own supportive healing?
Well, my journey's been through the food, I would say, in terms of being very aware of slowing down and being aware of what's sort of compromising our bodies, putting stress to our nervous system, stress to our bodies, the way we think and what we're getting caught up in our minds, because generally it's the mind, and obviously a symbiotic relationship with many things. Again, food has been I would say, the catalyst from my journey. If I look back from even 46 years ago, which the food wasn't addressed as I am aware to now in terms of 18, 19 years ago. So I could say I've made many attempts, potentially searching without even knowing, and maybe aspiring to get back to a connection that I knew I had. And looking back in retrospect, I didn't even know I had the connection until I lost it, and I would say reconnected to it. So again, the food has been a massive part of my journey. Before that, 19 years ago, was this Jinshin Jitsu. And that's a practice so I could practice on myself these flows. Once again, they call it the grandmother of acupuncture. And it's, instead of putting needles in, you just get well rehearsed in where the hands go. So the hands are like jumper cables. So I was blown away that it's like, oh, wow, I can actually work on myself, heal on myself, or heal myself, should I say. And that came after a relationship, long-term relationship breakup. So that was a massive tool first for me to relax my nervous system, to get it more calmer. Before, for many years, I didn't know what was calm. I did not know what was truly relaxed until I really was able to get more of the nonsense out the way. I've done a bit of yoga, a bit of keto. There's many things we can do. For me, with the Jinshin Jitsu, it was really simple. I would say a lazy way, to a degree, of achieving so much movement. So that had been massive in terms of my journey. So, but the biggest thing is discipline, repetition. There's been some younger people around me and people I might share with. It's just like, just implement certain things that is serving you, that has served you. So just keep doing it every day. Don't get too busy thinking about this workshop, that workshop after workshop, different protocol after protocol, modality after modality. That's sometimes there's the key in each modality, we could say, but we get addicted to chasing, searching. So, just implement a discipline each day, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, I don't do that anymore. wow, I don't do this. So, in terms of, yes, so that's been a massive one. And then, in any shift, any change, any detox, relationship, food, whatever it is, there are old habits that might come up that might aspire to pull you back into that. So you've got to be very mindful and very strong in your mind and repeat in your mind. Obviously, see the things that don't serve you. So why do them? Just stop it. If they need to end them, and move on. Otherwise, nothing ever changes. So again, food, Jinshin Jitsu, it might be running, cycling, physical exercise, which I do some of. My daily life is quite active majority of the time. So that has been an epic journey for me. And again, I will address the food because self-help Jinshin Jitsu and the food, them two together were epic on my journey to actually sustain and in this kind of 21st madness century, allegedly 21st anyway. So I think we got symptoms of detoxing, why it can feel like illness, being healthy body talk with Doreet. So yeah, why could it feel like illness? So many people say, "Oh, it didn't work," and it's just like because I had stuff on learned stuff, or was very aware of my dreams and could see things on a psychological level. Old trauma would be coming up, So the craving was associated with this old trauma. So one after another over the first 2 years, it was epic. Experiencing things I'd forgotten about. So in terms of why it can feel like illness, on a level, it's getting rid of old, I'm going to say, ill debris, ill energy, stagnated energy. So it's going to come up. So it's good to kind of get it out quick. If you do parasite cleanses, whatever we do, it's good to use a binder, etc. So my journey was seeing what the cravings was connected to, and then recognizing that my association with the food back then was sedating aspects in my life and just sedated me so I could think, why isn't nothing ever changing? Because I'm going back to the old eating habits, or it's like going back to the old same relationship that wasn't working, but you keep going back. Well, it's kind of obvious things aren't going to shift and change. So I'll leave that there. That's my part.
Great. So thank you for that, Pete. We're today looking at the symptoms of detox. Now, I'm going to talk first about detox. What is detox really? Just let me know, everyone, if you can all hear me.
We absolutely can.
Thank you. So what is detox? Well, there's a big difference between detox, cleanse, and purification. I'm not going to go into all of them today because today we're just talking about detox. So the body is a detox machine. We are masters of detoxification under the proper circumstances, as long as the body has the energy to do so, because detox demands a lot of energy. So the body eliminates toxins via 5 major detox centers. They are the liver, the lymph to me being the most important one, the lungs, the skin, and the kidneys. And detox releases stored toxins. It's like Pete was saying before, you already have these toxins within you. So it's going to release what has been building over a long period of time, unless the body was strong enough to do its own detox, which it's meant to do, it was built for. It's just that we are so overloaded with toxicity and overburdened that the body cannot do it on its own, which is why we need to really make all the changes that are suppressing the detox, the natural detox of the body. So when we detox, temporary symptoms may occur. And I want to stress the word temporary, because it feels like it's forever and it feels like we're now sicker than before. But in truth, it's only temporary. Now, obviously, my idea of temporary would be different from Sabina's if she's with a child, and different from Pete if he has an event that he has to put on. It might not feel temporary to him. And so everybody has a whole different perception of it. And that is why, in order to do a self-imposed detox, we need to work with somebody. You cannot do this on your own unless you know what you're doing. And I see so many people, I'm a moderator of certain groups online, and they are just freaking about detox. And then people who have no idea what they're saying are giving them advice, which is one of the worst things possible that I think anyone can do, because they're going from their own recent experience and new experiences. You need to work with somebody who really has been at this for a while and knows what they're doing if you're doing a real heavy detox. And there are different detoxes. If we have time today, we'll speak about them. So it does feel like illness, as Pete was stating, because the toxins released are being released faster than you're eliminating them. So if your eliminatory channels, any of those 5 eliminator channels are blocked, you cannot release the toxins fast enough. So the eliminatory channels, again, are the lymph, the most important one, the liver, the lungs, the colon, and the kidneys. And the waste circulates in your body until you're able to get rid of it. So you might feel like you have a cold or a flu. Then all of a sudden, you've got pangs, hunger pangs going on in your tummy if you've got parasites, and you're almost bending over in cramps and in pain. Then all of a sudden you have a violent headache. Then all of a sudden you have an earache, because the toxins are not being released fast enough and the waste is circulating in your body. So the immune response creates symptoms of its own. So the body immune system now starts kicking in and it creates symptoms of its own. And this is called a healing crisis. So, Sabina, have you ever experienced a healing crisis? And if so, and when, what was it like?
Yes, I have experienced quite a few healing crises, such as nausea, dizziness, low energy, pain, actually severe back pain. I have experienced vomiting. I have experienced like a lot of emotional, like suddenly, like some intense emotions were coming up, like anger, like I could just scream out of the top of my lungs. Yeah, a lot of emotional stuff came up, and skin issues I've experienced. Yeah, I've pretty much experienced all the symptoms. And yes, they were always temporary. They always disappeared. And yes, it can be concerning for some people because you think you're doing a cleanse, you're doing something good for yourself, and you actually start feeling worse than before the cleanse. And that could happen. And that's actually quite natural that you feel worse during the time, but then eventually it clears up. And the key is always not to panic when suddenly something shows up. This is simply that, as you just explained, like the toxins are circulating and they haven't exited the body. So they can come through the skin, they can come through coughing, they can come through mucus in the nose, all kinds of symptoms. And yeah, pain in the body is quite natural. Swelling of the legs, I have experienced, like my ankles were like really thick all of a sudden. And what else have I experienced? Just such fatigue that I could not get up from the bed. Actually, the feeling I'm dying, you know, really feeling this is the end. It's nothing worse than that. So yes, like pretty much every negative emotion came up for me during fasting. But the good news is I always got better. And then when you get to the other side, suddenly you get to this feeling, wow, I have never felt so good. I mean, that's then the other side is that suddenly you have such a boost of energy. You wonder what just happened. Why do I have so much energy? I have experienced that I suddenly started laughing just for no reason, like giggling and laughing, feeling like a child. Is what's going on? I'm so happy today, happy for no reason. I've also experienced such joy just bursting through my body. I have actually experienced completely feeling aroused. What's happening? My sexual energy is at its peak all of a sudden. So yes, it can go from something really unpleasant to something like you haven't experienced before. Like I experienced many times that I felt so good. I wondered, wow, this is our natural state. And most people never got to experience that. You actually experience ecstasy after just feeling I'm dying to ecstasy within a few days. So that is possible when we fast.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Sabina. We're going to come back to you because you mentioned the emotional. Lisa, remember last year when you were doing the fruits? At
Yes.
first, you felt you had a lot of energy, and then what happened?
It really was quite a miracle. I found myself like I'd always drink copious amounts of coffee to keep myself hydrated, which is I'm kidding, but to energize myself. And what I found is when I started it, of course, I was resistant and blocked, which is interesting. And as I went through this journey, of course, I've always loved fruit anyway. I found that I didn't crave sugar, of course. I had energy. I felt more open. I didn't rely on caffeine to wake me up. I wasn't hungry. It absolutely transformed my life. And I thank Doreet for her esteemed guidance and support on that journey.
And at some point, you felt sick. Do you remember that? Can you talk about that?
It's interesting how I blocked that out. Yeah, I felt really sick at one point. And it's interesting because that's the thing I think that people tend to give up is they feel sick. And so they assume it's not working for them, but that's absolutely the sign that it is working. And if you can weather that, the other side of it, like Sabina talked about, like Pete talked about, the other side of it is literally miraculous. You have the things that you didn't even know you had. You have that childlike wonder and joy, and you have so much renewed energy, that kind of energy where you feel like you're a kid again, and the world feels it feels new. It's because you're in a renewal process. You're in a rebirthing process, actually. So that's the beauty of that experience. But it's so vital that you have really somebody that knows what they're doing, because there's a lot of influencers, that are selling powders and supplements. And I'm not saying those are good or bad. I'm just saying that you really need somebody that understands the whole picture, because it's not just about the food that you eat or what you drink. There's so much more that you really need to let go of and release. It's not just that. Like Pete talked about that, Sabina talked about it. It's your mental state too. Which relationships do you need to release that aren't supporting your growth and your healing? What thoughts are you having that don't support you anymore that you need to release so that you can have the life that you really wish to have and create that for yourself? What movement do you need to work through to help you optimize yourself? If you're sitting a lot, you're not going to fully benefit. We're a whole system. We're not just a one-stop fix. It's really important not to go into something like this and just think, I just do this and everything changes. There is so much that needs to be changing, and that's why your body is talking to you in the way that it's talking to you and functioning. It's trying to get your attention. It's everything that you view as negative is really a loving reminder. There's health on the other side of this if you just listen, and you'll come into balance.
Yes, indeed. And if you stay open to the process, very well stated there, Lisa. Thank you for that. Because one of the things that I wanted to go back to Sabina about too is when she spoke about the emotional side of detox. And this is something which people are not prepared for. And as Lisa was saying, there are people who are called influencers who are selling things to take. But the truth of the matter is the body knows what to do. The body's inner wisdom always comes through. And we have to have the emotional support and start working on our emotional state to get through a detox. What would you see as, for you, Sabina, the emotional detox that occurred each time? And how did you change emotionally from the first time you started this until now, years later, when you've done this several times?
Well, it starts first by recognizing that emotions are stored in the body. They're stored in the tissues, in the cells. So when we cleanse our body or the cells, these emotions get stirred up and they come to the surface. So I had a lot of anger in my life. It was basically suppressed anger through my entire childhood because it was not allowed to be angry. You had to be the good girl, to be nice and to smile. So I had years and years of stored anger within myself. And I found that when I would fast, I would suddenly get, it didn't happen every time, but there were certain fasts, because I did a lot of fasting every month, 5 days over 6 years. So I fasted 300 days, which is kind of crazy and extreme, I know. But that was just the place I was in because I was really committed to release, because I realized that really my emotions came up, and they come up for a reason, because they come up because they want to go out. So I was really committed to heal that emotional trauma I was carrying with me, because I was just unable to be in any healthy relationship. So whenever I fast, not all the time, but sometimes during fasting, I felt this anger coming up. And then I would go in the garden and I would cry, I would scream, I would shake my body, I would move it out in any way I can, not just moving out, moving through it, and actually feeling the emotion. I felt that pain, and a lot of memories came back from childhood. Situations suddenly showed up, like watching a movie of situations I experienced when I was little and as a teenager. So these moments would come up again, and I would just have such clarity, like I'm watching a movie of my life, and I could see why certain situations happened and why I feel that way. So it was just a lot of clarity. And what happens also when we fast, we release the dense energies of the body, we tune into a more subtle frequency, and we have a different perspective on life. It's just a higher state of consciousness and just a more subtle level of awareness. So I could see suddenly things that I couldn't before, like about my life. And it just gave me a lot of clarity. And then being able to be with these emotions, crying, screaming, shaking, just feeling it, and literally just lying down and feeling all of it until slowly start dissipating. And it was a process over a few years of just learning to be with all of me, call it that way, really being with all these emotions, all that came up, and learning to not make it wrong. And there's really no escaping, usually we go to food to suppress emotions, or we go into activity, but actually really being with these emotions, it's very difficult, but that's where the healing takes place. And I would love myself with all that is coming up and move it through my system. And after doing this for 5 years, it was a long journey for me because there was so much stuff there. But eventually I got to the place where I just experienced peace. And I can't say that I never get angry. I still do. But the difference is I don't react anymore. I don't lash out anymore. And sometimes just for a moment, and I catch myself. I can actually feel, okay, Sabina, take a breath. And now I don't have to go in a 5-day fast. Now it's about a reminder, breathe, pause, center, and from such a place, then respond instead of just lashing out. So that was the journey of healing emotional pain and anger and trauma.
And what I really like about your story specifically, Sabina, is that you've always seemed to focus on the fact that you're not cleansing just something that's physical. You're going deeper, much deeper, which is what most people fear and run away from. And that is why they're sick in the first place. So when we cleanse, we're not cleansing the body. The body knows how to cleanse itself. I see all cleanse and all detox as detoxing the thought patterns, the belief systems, and all the things that have held us back in our own lives and prevented us from being the absolutely powerful, magnificent creatures we are, which are our emotional state, our mental state, and the conditionings that that's been given to us. These land in our bodies and they land in our organs. And when I work with people, I do not tell people we're going to detox their body. I said we're going to detox you on a cellular level, and within each cell are all the emotions that have been suppressed, everything that you have run away from, and everything that you delighted in. And we would probably fluctuate between both of them. So it's not an easy journey, and it's a lifelong journey because the body is made to detox. So I'm going to bring in Herb here. Can you tell us your own detox story, the first time, Herb, that you detoxed? Do you remember it?
My first detox was a runny nose, like most of us. But I didn't realize that's the body's natural response to health. On a more sincere note, when I was aware of detoxes and consciously detoxing, I had symptoms come through, all kinds of symptoms, especially when I did a juice fast going over 2 months. So much came through for me. In all honesty, it wasn't that much of a big deal for me because what I was experiencing with my health beforehand was already bad. So any kind of symptoms that came through wasn't nowhere near as bad as how I felt before I cleaned up my diet and overall well-being. What I was mostly experiencing was a lot of mucus being expelled. From my understanding, we have so much backed up in our system, so much sitting in our colon, which we touch on quite a lot on here. You've given some great examples on that. Seeing old waste matter coming out of us like a juice fast, we're just drinking liquids, yet there's still solid waste passing through. That sent alarm bells ringing for me. If I ever incorporate nuts or anything heavy, anything dense, I noticed that detox will slow down, and I'll be generating more mucus at times. But I like to feel fresh and clean. I see a lot of people are afraid of being raw vegan, fruitarian, and getting healthy because they hear these stories of these detox symptoms. It's really not that bad. I think it's something that we don't understand. We're not educated on this. And I think if we have some little bit of encouragement from others, sharing their light, their experience, and go out and do our own research and read, I think we'll feel so much more better about any kind of detox experience that we may go through. It'd be very reassuring. And many of us treat detox as well as a short-term thing. I think it's a lifelong thing. I think the body's constantly detoxing. Many of us seem to do like short little stints, fast cleanses, all kinds of like products and stuff where so many of us are easily misled down different paths, which really isn't going to serve us in the long term, and then revert back to our old ways and old habits. That doesn't matter. That doesn't make any sense. Like, we detox to retox. So I think it's a constant thing in life. And for me, one of the many reasons why I stayed on this path of living on fruit, living foods, is because I don't want to go through all that kind of, not necessarily trouble, but all that cleansing, all that detoxing and fasting for nothing. I don't want to do all that again. I've done the hard work, and yeah, one of the reasons that keeps me going early on is because I don't want to go through all that again. The 2 months of juicing, that's a beautiful journey, and you learn so much more about yourself. That's where old emotions and traumas and things come up for me. I caught Sabina mentioning this as well, and it's a great opportunity to go deeper within ourselves. And like you mentioned, we heal every single part of ourselves, and this is one of the many reasons as well that people bail from this lifestyle of being healthier and then reverting to numbing themselves, because they can't. I don't mean this in disrespect as well, because it is a challenge if we're not aware, if we're not educated. It's a challenge when we're confronted with all these emotions coming to the surface, and it's going to ripple out into like our old habits like binging and all kinds of cravings and different kinds of self-harm, really, to numb ourselves. So everyone I speak to, I really do encourage, and we can ease a detox. So if you're going to do a water fast, it's going to be so much more harder for the body if you're new to that. That's why I always share the importance of sweet, ripe, juicy fruit, because you're not starving yourselves. It's not a hard fast, and you can balance that out with green juices and lots of salads in the evenings to slow things down. You can do like just high water content, like say like oranges, for example, all day every day. That's beautiful, but that may be challenging for some. So it's kind of a trial and error. Find what works for you. Some people love diving in at the deep end with full trust and pass through that, and others like to dip their toes in and ease themselves. So yeah, I do really, really feel strongly that it's important for those of experience to offer their guidance.
Thank you
and
for
support
that. Yes.
and love.
Thank you for that, Herb. Pete, I'm going to bring you back on. Do you remember your absolute first time you detoxed? I want everybody to really focus on the symptoms. What were the symptoms? How did you feel about them? How did you manage? And looking back now, what did you learn?
As we're talking about this, I remember when I did these groups when I was 17. Now, this wasn't associated with food, but because I was going into other aspects of myself and deeper inner work, daily dreams, daily diary, and meditation, learning many things, actually, big breath work. For them, that period of time, it could potentially like a year and a half, nearly 2 years. But for the first year, mucus. Now, the interesting thing is this wasn't food. So now we come into energetics, is the energy I was in. So in terms of frequency, the groups that I was in as well, and what we was processing, what we was clearing. So it brought back that memory. I had so much mucus. It was just unbelievable. And I was working with my dreams. The dreams showed me so much back then. Going back in terms of when I first transitioned into doing the raw vegan 18 years ago, symptoms, I mean, I was flying, because I had this other modality, Jinshinjutsu, really supported me in getting more balanced. So in terms of symptoms, so then I ventured into different detoxes, or more, say, advanced, in terms of my first green juice fast. Ended up about 13 days. That was after, I think, 4 years of on that journey. And that was purely more cucumber, celery was the basis of the liquid, and then potential other greens. And that was epic. Felt like a blood transfusion with pure high force vibrational power. Any ache and pain I had, old injury, etc., disappeared in about 4 or 5 days. So what got me on that fast is because my knee over a period of 2 days was aching, and it slowly seized up, literally seized. And it's just like, right, great time for a fast. So, and after 2 or 3 days on this fast, totally cleared up. So I tend to, if I look back in retrospect, wait, let's just say, sort of wait for the signs, I stabilize a more healthy, obviously, eating. Back then I look at that I was potentially more raw vegan junk food to degrees of heavy bananas, heavy cashews, cacao in my smoothies, every rising for 10, 12 years, and I'd have about 2 liters of a smoothie. So, and then again, we mentioned about people, what we see people done a few years or weekends and then sort of pushing out different information. I was shown really after 17 years, okay, now you've got some value or some experience to share, because it's unique to an individual. If I'm with a person, you'd find out about the person. There's not one fits all. And then from your experience, of your own experience and working with different people, then if you stay open, not textbook, you get the answers. I get the answers anyway, intuitively, So I've had tons of mucus, basically certain aches and pains. The other one I did, let me think. Yes, there's been vomiting. There's been, I don't really get migraines, but there's been occasions where I've had this piercing so-called migraine. And then you can just feel low down, or so-called low. And then as not as enthusiastic about things. So that's why I personally, make sure it's coming out quick. If I'm sort of going on a more precise detox, the sauna was amazing. Back in England, I would do that practically every rising, sauna and ice bath. So that's really a constant detox. It's constantly moving things. And then I realized back in England and many places, we're constantly bombarded, with toxicity. And in places where it's so much more chemtrailing, or anyway, nonsense in the sky, nonsense in the house, putting on, people putting on makeup, in terms of, we talked about the lymphatic system, under the armpits, and, we're just clogging up our system. So, the body needs to breathe. The breath is a release, like you mentioned, and the bowels and the sweat, So if we're not doing that, then we get backed up, and then hence comes this, backed up so-called tumor or whatever it may be, polyp, etc., in terms of the body doing its best, what it can, to get rid of these toxins, in terms of, because our vehicle, our terrain isn't functioning to a good order. So yes, sometimes migraines, lots of mucus, very mucus. Again, having all these amalgam stories, so there's so much connected with my sinus or teeth problems. So I've had so much in terms of around this area. So I have to be, very careful in terms of making sure I'm mouth washing and using different things, keeping my mouth very clean.
Yes, thank you for that. I really wanted you to come on in, because you started this whole process first with energetics rather than with food. And to me, detox doesn't start with food. Actually, I prefer to introduce my clients to their languaging, re-languaging themselves, changing their own perception of themselves before I bring in the food part of a detox. I never go that route first. And I also prepare them to be more constant with themselves. In other words, to find their own presence and like their own presence. So I never start with this. And it's later on. So I was looking at this week some of the online groups where I'm a moderator, and someone was talking about the detox that she was on, and she'd been doing fruits for like a whole month, and she felt great, and all of a sudden the crash came, and she's with so much pain now and whatnot. And then she said, and so I'm continuing, but I'm taking Tylenol. Could any of you comment on that, please? Lisa, I'm bringing you up because I saw your face.
Wow. I just have to say you're introducing what your body is releasing. So it's like a alcoholic going through a active detox to release all the toxins in their system and thinking, well, let me just add one drink in to make that, let me put more poison back in to help myself. It's like, that is not what you need. Your body, again, is indicating to you that it needs support. It knows exactly what it needs to do. And it is like a GPS, is guiding you through the journey. And I think a lot of times when things get difficult in life, we think we're doing something wrong, or we should fix that. And the reality is it's an opportunity to awaken. We don't want to reintroduce things that are not great for us, because then we're prolonging the cycle. That's why Herb talked about, like, I don't want to go through this again. I worked very efficiently and intentionally through this journey, and I want to stay on course rather than stopping and then having to restart. It's just so much easier if you can look at this as a life's journey and support yourself actively throughout life.
Absolutely spot on. Thank you so much for that, Lisa. Yes, and what I saw was an addiction to Tylenol. And so the addiction comes up because it's a psychological and mental and physical and emotional addiction. And so the fact that she didn't see any harm in it, but she was going to continue on the fruit diet, I thought that was the most interesting part for me, was that we are so conditioned to fixing ourselves. Something needs to be fixed. Something is wrong. I've got to fix this, and I've got to stop this right away, that we don't even see the fact that we might be addicts. We might be addicts to feeling a certain way only. And we came here to experience I know I do. I came here to experience all of life. And if it means I have to be in the mud one day, or like Sabina, I love the fact that when Sabina, things get really rough, she goes outdoors in nature, and then she incorporates movement. I really, really like that about Sabina. Sabina, how would you have responded to that person? I didn't respond to her. I wanted to hear now how you would.
How would I have responded? Well, first of all, it's very important that when we go into some longer cleanse, that we have a very strong mindset. I think this is number one. I don't recommend anyone to do a long water fast if they're not really prepared and really committed that they're going to do that. And because people give up ways too early. And that lady probably, she felt some negative, because she felt negative symptoms. She felt like, okay, this is not working. I need to add something. They change really. They go against what's actually working by adding more chemicals in. And yes, you mentioned something about the addiction. It could be that lady, I heard like from multiple people, they were actually cocaine addicts 20 years ago, and they never did it again. And they did a water fast, and actually there must have been some residue left, and they suddenly had this desire to snore coke. Yeah. So it could have been that lady has taken a lot of Tylenol before, and then stirred up some residue and some memory of that, and suddenly her body was craving that, like a withdrawal symptom, that she had a desire to do that. It's another explanation why she went that route. But ultimately, we got to have a strong mindset. We have to be able to self-regulate and regulate our nervous system, because emotions come up and the mind will come up telling you, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. This is dangerous and this is not working. And all these disempowering messages that will kick in, and then we got to have that strong mindset. Yes, this is what I'm going to do. I'm committed to this. I'm moving through this with whatever arises, and learning how to self-regulate and be able to master the emotions that come up without getting lured back into disempowering ways of being and choices.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to bring up Herb here for a second. Herb, did you find that you had any addictions before that came up when you first started out?
Any addictions before I started detoxing and cleansing?
Yes, that came up as you were detoxing and cleansing.
Oh, that came up. Oh, goodness. I was riddled with addictions, all kinds of things, unconscious, a whole matter of things, not just food. Yeah, absolutely. I think most of us are.
I think it's important to talk about them because these are the things that I don't see in the living foods community, people speaking about, and people setting themselves up as authorities for people to come and detox with them, all because they've done one successful detox, and this doesn't come up. And I think it's really important that when you detox on a physical level, you're detoxing all the addictions as well, and they will come up. So how was this a shocker to you? Was this debilitating to you, or was this exciting to you? How did you respond when they came up?
It wasn't debilitating because I was recognizing them. I was seeing them for the first time more clearly. Even things that I thought was healthy, like riding my bike. I've mentioned this before. That became a form of an escape, although it's a great healthy thing to do, to transfer some negative energy into something positive. It was an addiction, and that led on to uncomfortable experiences. Is when, like you mentioned, how you approach with your clients is that it starts with other areas like the mind. And I was on another path of meditation and awareness. And as my mind became a little bit more clear, I was able to observe from a distance at myself and recognizing certain habits, certain patterns, certain anxieties and addictions. And I accepted them. And once I see them, I could transcend them.
Yes, I think the key word there is transcendence. So if we do not learn transcendence first, to me, one should not detox. Or unless you're starting the process and you're working with somebody who is able to assist you in that part of transcendence, because we're here such a short time, very short. We don't realize it, but it's really short because we're the ones who put timing on everything. It doesn't even really exist. And it's really like this. It's that quick. It's like a flicker of light and then we're gone again. And in the time that we're here, I think one of the things that we're here to do is to get to know what it's like to be in this very dense dimension with a very dense body. And to try to run away from that, I think it's one of the things that we need to detox from. So this desire that things should be the should word, that should be a certain way. And I see a lot happening with detox, a lot of companies now coming on board and making a lot of money off detox supplements and whatnot. And people are just going out and buying them like crazy. I mean, I know a friend in Canada who I just heard from one of my family members that she just started a parasite cleanse. She has not cleansed any of her eliminator channels first because it's a fad there right now to do parasite cleanse. I thought, my gosh, she's going to be in a lot of problems and a lot of things are going to come up for her, not to mention when the parasites get really angry and they want their fix, then she's going to be angry, not understanding also all the stuff. So my family member said, maybe you should contact her. I said, no, I do not intervene in anybody's soul's journey here unless they come to me first and say, please help me. or if I offer my services. It's just something really important. For example, I'm a certified movement analyst, movement therapist, and I've had people come to me with aches and pains and they only come to me in the last resort. They never come to me at the beginning. I'm always the last resort because they hear that all these things about me first, which are very strange things sometimes. But they know that I'm not into fix it. That's what they know. I'm not into fixing it, fixing a pain, fixing a problem. And I will ask them, well, what is your problem? Tell me about your back. What is your problem? They get really upset usually when I ask that. I said, the problem is not your back. Your back is just getting your attention. And one of the first things I tell people who can't come to me with chronic pain, you have to learn to breathe again. You're not breathing. You don't know how to breathe. And you also need to change your diet. You have too much acidity in your diet. You need to be alkaline. That's when they run. The minute I go onto their diet, they want movement. They want me to do certain exercises and only those exercises. In the meantime, the back, especially if it's in the lower back, is part of an entire skeleton system. If it's part of a skeletal system, it means everything up and down the skeletal system, all the organs in front of it, everything around it, the whole thing is participating in the problem. The back is just the weakest area where it shows up. And they don't want to hear that. They want it to be fixed. So I tell them you need to go to a physical therapist if you want this to be fixed. I'm not here to fix a problem. I'm here to help you to transcend. And that sounds so idiotic to many people that they run. And one woman said to me when I first came to LA, I'm going to make, you're really crazy. And I'm going to make sure that nobody ever works with you again. And I thought, well, this is really interesting. Instead of her going home and saying, why was that woman so idiot? Why do I find her to be so idiotic? What about this is ringing a bell for me? What about this am I resisting? And I think it's interesting that we all want these quick fixes. And this is what I see happening in the living food community is people running to detox for quick fixes. Would you ever say that this lifestyle is a quick fix for anything? I want each of you to answer that. I'm going to start with Pete.
Oh, wow. You said a lot there. It's definitely not a quick fix. And on a level, what I see happens is what we actually represent. And if someone's come to you or we've shared what we see is generally the seed, and on a level, what we're doing. I remember a friend saying, oh, my mum's like this. Why can't she see this? Can't she see that? If she only saw this or whatever. On a level, it's like, what do you know what you're asking her to do? Do you know what you're asking her to go back and revisit? That pain is energy memory, shock and trauma. So on a level, why people tend to just want the quick fix is because they don't want to revisit the energy memory, the actual experience of that. So the quick fix is just a quick suppression. It's not fix. It's just a quick suppression. It's just a big ass backside sedative pill, if you don't mind me saying. And yes, there are so many people, we all think we're know-alls, and then we learn something and we want to share it. And then that's why so many people fail. So I won't go on anymore, but yeah, you shared a lot there, Doreet, and I think it's really amazing getting this across. And for the people who want to keep going around in circles in a loop, then, carry on sort of getting misled really. But, you got to do the work. It's not a quick fix. And it's beautiful. It's a mindset. Change the mindset. It's opportunities. It's so rewarding, unbelievable. I was crippled, energetically crippled. I didn't know how crippled I was until I took the journey and keep jumping through it. And it's just like you blossom so amazing, in terms of you're not getting the high and lows. You're just on this constant 0 point, beautiful level. Right, I'll leave it there.
Thank you for that, Pete. Yes, it's indeed a journey. Lisa, could you respond to the same question? Is this a quick fix?
I'm the queen of this quick fix stuff. I mean, you're speaking directly to somebody like me. I tend to be wanting something fast, whether it's, the miracle this, the miracle that. And what I can tell you is you don't solve a problem with a quick fix. This is a lifetime journey, and slower, steadier, more consistent work will keep your nervous system aligned. It will make it so much easier, because do you want to do a quick fix, go through the hard, you see it all the time with weight loss. And I've been up and down in my weight for years, where, oh, you look great. And then you start going back to all the things that you were doing prior to that. And of course you gain that and more. And it becomes a cycle, unhealthy for your body. Why not? If your body's weight is just telling you something. It's like, love me, work with me, and listen to me, and I will take you on a journey that will ultimately make you feel healthy and happy, all the things that you want. But this is not a quick journey. There's no quick fix here. And I think people want to go to money schemes, to this, where everybody's trying to 30 days and you're here. And yeah, 30 days can give you some change, but you also have to take self-responsibility and go beyond the 30-day mentality and work on it daily. That's important. It will serve you on the long run.
Thank you. Yeah, you both said, you and Pete both said the word, it's a journey. I'm going to bring in Sabina here. Sabina, could you please, we have 1 minute for you and then 1 minute for Herb. Just let me know the answer to, is this a quick fix?
No, there are no quick fixes. That's an illusion. And like Lisa and Pete said, it's about the journey. And that journey requires making changes, creating lifestyle shifts. And most people are not willing to create those changes because their patterns are so deeply ingrained. And also that journey requires getting uncomfortable. Yes. And most people don't want to be uncomfortable. They rather stay in their comfort zone, even they know it's not serving them. So that's why people mostly fail, because they're looking for a quick pill to take, or some special tool, or some machine that quickly does it. But then ultimately, this is not working. So we got to embrace, we need to make the changes. And it's about learning to become comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sabina. Pete, please.
Yeah, in the ultimate reality of things, this is a quick fix, because this is the only fix there is, because everything else is all patchwork and never really works. That's how I see it. For me, it took not long at all to have to see clearly. If we're doing things like grabbing hold of things, taking pills, supplements, in the long run, it's never going to heal us. So as fast as you can be on the path, then that's the quickest fix there is. I know it's a little play on words, but ultimately this is a quick fix, and it is the only fix. And the problem is, for most of us, is trust. We don't know who to trust, and like you touched on beautifully, we are so conditioned and programmed. Anything we suggest that's out of the norm rings alarm bells to us, and it's an invitation for us to go deeper down rabbit holes that many of us don't want to do, because we're afraid. And what we really need is a little bit of love and encouragement.
And what we need is our own presence.
Mm.
That's what we need more than anything else. That's what's lacking. That's the quick fix to me, when we're able to be fully present for ourselves.
Exactly.
Thank you. So I want to thank Herb. I want to thank Sabina, Lisa, Pete for really coming forward today. And I think with most people, I really hope that most people share this, because I think we've said a lot here today that is sensible and that people really need to hear. Thank you all for coming. Thanks to my co-host. Thanks for watching this, and please share this with everyone, because we matter. Until next time,